The Luminous Mind, episode 23.
Love yourself. And the most important thing about homeschooling is that we get to build relationships. In fact, there can be no learning and no respect done if we don't have a great relationship with our children.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Tresta Neal. Tresta was raised under the New Mexican sunset and loves Mexican and Navajo food. She learned about the miracle of the body through nursing school at Weber State. After living in 4 different states, she calls Utah her home. She's learning patience while homeschooling her 8 children. She remains hungry for knowledge about symbols, rituals, and patterns within the ancient Hebrew and Persian cultures. She's the author of God Saw That It Was Good, The Theology Tree, and co-directs the LDS Homeschool Conference with her husband, Tom. She's very passionate about education and freedom. If she had to choose one subject to study, she would study the stars. If you ask her about her most embarrassing moment, she will tell you a story about sitting on a cactus. So welcome, Tresta. So you're going to have to tell us the story now, of course.
I'm like, oh, that's a great way to start.
So what's the story of the cactus?
So I grew up in New Mexico, as you know, just with lots of cactus. And we would go camping out in the forests and things. And I remember picking a camping site with my family. And right in the middle of the camping site was this big, huge cactus. It was one of those ones that sit on the ground, not the ones that grow tall. And we thought, well, we're just going to put a table on top of it so no one will step on it. No big deal. So we put a table on top of it. And no, we were going to put a table on top of it. But we got started with doing other things. And I went and played with my brother. We came back. We had a good time. And then my father said, hey, help me move this table. And I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. So I picked it up and I walked backwards, tripped on top of that cactus, and sat right down on top.
Ouch. Oh.
Yeah. It was really bad.
Were you pulling out spines for days?
So that was the embarrassing moment. Then I had to pull down my pants in front of the whole camp, brothers, aunts, uncles, and cousins and relatives. And I was 16 at the time.
Oh, so my gosh. That's
extremely embarrassing for me. As my mom picked one at a time out from my body.
Oh, my goodness. That sounds horrible. I have to tell you, I love the desert, too. So when you said you grew up under those sunsets and stuff, we lived in Las Vegas for a very short time, and I really learned to love the desert.
Yeah.
I kind of told a little bit about yourself, but do you want to tell us a little more and maybe what your hobbies, passions, and profession are?
Okay, sure. So I grew up the oldest of 7, and we grew up on a cove, and I just had the greatest childhood, really. I just loved being a child and loved playing and loved playing cowboys and Indians with my brothers and sisters. And then I went to Ricks College, and then after Ricks College, I graduated there and went to Weber State and graduated from Weber State. After that, I went on a mission to the Netherlands.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for me, and I learned a lot there. And then after that, I came home. Well, actually, I met my husband before my mission, and he waited for me.
Oh, that's exciting. Unusual.
Yep, unusual, yep. And the other thing that's unusual about our courtship was that we met in a nursing home.
Oh, boy.
I was a nurse because I had graduated in nursing, and I was a nurse working there, and he was a nurse's assistant.
No. That's funny.
Yeah, so then after my mission, we got married, and I came home early from my mission. I was told that I would never be able to have children because I have a sickness. And so we just expected to live our lives with no children, and we had planned it that way. And then all of a sudden we had children, and it started happening. And so we had 4 right in a row, 4 in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. 4 in diapers. Yeah, I thought I had gone to hell, actually. Yeah, that was not my favorite time of my life. It was very difficult, very hard. Then we moved to Utah, and it was 5 years later that we decided that we would like to have more children. So we had 4 more after that.
Oh, wow.
And I love raising my family. I love my teenagers the best. And I have a missionary out in Chicago right now that I love to death. I love Mondays that I get all of the letters.
So you said you had a profession then. What is the profession that you do?
I love homeschooling. So I just teach homeschoolers how to put Christ in their homeschooling. I have a curriculum that I've written called the Theology Tree. And it's just an analogy about how Christ is the trunk and how our principles and doctrines are the roots. And all of the branches are the different subjects that we study throughout the day. Yeah, and I put how each subject connects to Christ. And then I also teach how you can take one principle and put it into all of the different subjects. I love about the different, like the doctrines, principles, and applications, and how they fit together. What's the difference between a doctrine and a principle and application, and how can you liken that to Christ in your life?
That sounds very interesting, very neat. I'll have to check that out. So what was your personal educational experience as a child?
I was public schooled, loved it. I could not get enough of it. If I were sick, I would pretend that I was well. I loved school. I loved my friends. I loved everything about school. The funny thing about being in school is that I was always about the social aspect of it. It wasn't until I was a junior that I learned what a GPA was.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So it was one of the guys that I had liked on the football team. And he told me, he goes, I have better grades than you do. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. And he goes, yeah, what's your GPA? And I'm like, I don't know. What's my GPA? So I learned by the time I was a senior that I needed to care about my grades. And I graduated, get this, with a 2.5.
Oh, wow. That sounds about like me. So it wasn't until I got to college that I'm like, oh, maybe I should actually study.
Yeah. My last 2 semesters as a senior, I got 4.0 and brought it up to a 2.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did not care about grades and our learning, and that wasn't my passion at all back then. But when I got to college, I decided to step it up.
Yeah. So why did you choose to homeschool then?
Oh, I didn't. My husband actually asked me to do it when my oldest was about 2 or 3. And I said, not on your life. School is awesome. There's no way I'm going to homeschool. And so he invited me to come down to Utah and to go to a homeschool conference. And I said, all right, I'll try it out, but I don't think I'm going to change my mind. And while I was there, I felt the Spirit, and I knew that I was supposed to homeschool. And I've just been doing it ever since.
Oh, wow. So tell us about your educational philosophy then, kind of what your curriculum is, and then what method you approach things at.
Well, like most homeschoolers, I'm eclectic. I just like to pull from everything, pull from everywhere. But my favorite that I've used a lot and have gone back to every time I get off the track is the principle approach. And that's just where you pull principles from everything that you're learning, and that you help your children make their own textbooks.
Oh, wow.
Instead of having textbooks and workbooks for them, they create their own. And my children's notebooks are so amazing. They still ask for them, and they still look through them, and they remember the things. And even my son that's on a mission has asked me to send me his English one so that he could teach other people how to speak in English. So it's just, they're invaluable. They become yours. They're your creation. And I have now, I don't even know. I was going to count them. I have probably, over 50 notebooks of my own.
Oh, wow.
That are mine. You know, I have an English one and a writing one and a geography one and literature. I mean, I have tons. I love, love, love creating my own workbooks. And I teach from them. If someone needs to learn sometimes, let's go to my notebook and let's learn it. It's far better than a textbook.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Is that part of the theology tree? Is that laid out in that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Great. I will have to look that up. That sounds so neat. How has your paradigm of education and your philosophy of education changed over time and with experience? You said that, you didn't necessarily want to homeschool. How did that change, other than the Spirit, of course?
Well, looking back, because education to me was just being social. It was just getting friends and having fun and having places to go. And, that was my whole education experience in high school. And I always felt stupid. Like, even when I graduated from college with my 2 degrees, I remember my mother coming and asking me a question. She goes, well, you should know that. you graduated from college. You should know that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I guess I'm not. I'm just, stupid. But it wasn't until I started homeschooling that I really changed. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of great stuff out here. And I just started becoming hungry for knowledge. And I started teaching my children what I was learning. And then they were learning and they were interested in things. And so my philosophy used to be just education is social. That's how shallow it was. But now it's like, wow, why didn't I ever learn anything in school? Why wasn't it entertaining? Why wasn't it great? And now I look at education and I just cannot get enough. I still am hungry. I'm still thirsty just all the time. I'm reading 5 books at a time now where I never even liked reading before.
Oh, wow.
So for me in my personal life, it's changed drastically. But as far as the philosophy of education in the world, I can see the differences between, when I was in public school versus the homeschoolers now, and how richer they are when they want to study them by themselves.
Yeah, when there's a self-driven, directed approach to it, they just devour stuff. So, So what is the best advice that you've ever received about homeschooling?
That your children doesn't have to read before he's 5 years old.
That does take a lot of stress off.
It does. Yeah, I had my first child was learning disabled for sure, just stressing me out. And I would push the second one. No, you can't read yet till the first one can read. Stop reading. Gotta read. And I was really stressed out about it, and I just couldn't get it. And I'm like, maybe it is not for me. I don't know how to teach my oldest how to read. But by the time he was 10, he was an avid reader and very good at reading. Not very eloquent, but he was a good reader. And my second one just flew past him, and it was okay. It was okay. You didn't have to compare. That was the other thing. Don't compare your children to each other.
Yeah, they all definitely come with different learning. I mean, I have 4, and they have all read at a different time, just whatever time schedule that fit them. So,
exactly.
So what do you think about socialization? We talked about how fun school was. How important do you think that is in a person's life? And what do you guys do to be socialized?
So that was my biggest question coming into homeschooling. You've got to have socialization.
Yeah.
But man, my kids get more social than I ever did. It's just crazy. They're in a ballroom dance team. They're on the choir. They're in a co-op school together. We have a movie night once a month with the teenagers that get together in our valley. Yeah, there's lots of socialization we do. I don't think homeschoolers are lacking socialization anymore.
Sometimes it's like, can we just stay home, get some schoolwork done? So I like how it actually separates the socialization from the education, because I was a lot like you, where I was, I tied my school and social stuff together, and it was almost like I would get so frustrated with the teacher standing up there teaching, because I'm like, I just want to talk to my friends. So I like how it kind of separates it, and so they can go have fun and be social. But when it's time to, when they want to learn and study, then they kind of are separated and can do that. So what would you say is the biggest obstacle that you face homeschooling? And then tell us what you've learned from that.
Oh, wow. I have to say it was my son's health. My 7th son had a liver transplant when he was born without a bile duct. And he suffered for 2 years while we waited for a liver, and then 2 years after that. And during that time, I had to be in the hospital with him most of that time. And I couldn't teach my children, the other children that were home. And so it was really the hardest thing I've ever gone through, both emotionally, financially, everything. But especially with the homeschool wise, they had to be put in public school. And I thought, well, I'm going to put them in public school just because I can't teach them. So I put my first grader into first grade and fourth grader and, on up. But 2 of my children refused. They said, absolutely not. I am not going to school no matter what you say. So they were able to stay home and watch the babies. But the 4 that did go into public school, I thought, oh, good. I won't have to teach them the read, and I won't have to teach them this, and I won't have to teach them this because the school will teach them this. But when they came back out and we were able to bring ATN back home and everything was, kind of semi-normal and we could homeschool again, they had learned horrible things. Horrible. I mean, just in evolution alone. And so I thought, well, I have to reteach them. And then the little guys that I thought would learn how to read by the time they came home did not even come close to learning how to read. They came out of school learning, knowing the same exact thing. And so I was frustrated, just frustrated, like, oh my gosh, all that time was wasted. Nothing happened while I was gone. And it was, that was by far my biggest obstacle to reteach my older kids and to have to still be at the same level with my younger kids.
Oh, that would be frustrating. So what are some of the ways that you combat discouragement? I mean, I think most homeschoolers have them. And so how do you get through that?
I put on good music.
No, that works. It does.
Yeah, it really does.
I put it on and then sing at the top of my lungs, and I usually have my younger one join in, and my older one's looking at me like, what are you doing? But yes, that does. That helps.
And dance.
Yeah.
Just have fun. I remember one time my kids were just driving me crazy. They weren't doing anything I asked them to do, and nothing was happening. And it was a fall day, and I just said, okay, we're done. Everybody outside. And so we went outside and we raked up leaves and raked this big, huge pile of leaves and jumped in it for hours. And I took pictures of that day, and I had it hanging up on my wall, and my midwife came in and she goes, oh, what a beautiful picture. And I said, yeah, it was a horrible day. And she goes, what? How could that beautiful picture be a horrible day?
I like how you handle that, though. There are times when you just have to go, that's enough. We got to go do something else, because sometimes the learning isn't happening. And so you've got to figure out a way to preserve the relationship in the meantime. So great. Before we go on, we're going to take a moment and hear about our sponsors.
Hey, Firestarters, this is Mark, producer of The Luminous Mind. If you're like me, the thought of going out to the store and shopping is enough to make you want to crawl in a hole and hide. If that's you, then do your shopping online through Amazon. Just go to theluminousmind.net, click on the Amazon link, and shop away. Also, most of the books and resources that Rebecca and her guests discuss can be found on our Amazon links as well. Again, if you're like me, you have already accidentally signed up for Amazon Prime. So most of those purchases should have free shipping as well. Good luck!
Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Tresta Neal. So we're going to discuss some successes that you've seen. We talked about how when you pulled your children out, they weren't learning anything. So what are some successes that you've seen?
I think the biggest, wow, this is a touchy subject for me, I guess, or it's bringing lots of emotions. My son, who is my oldest, who had a hard time learning, he just felt like he was stupid all of his life too. And I didn't realize that until we were working on his transcripts for college, and we were putting together all of his things. And he went through it and he goes, man, I did a lot in that year. And then we'd do the next year. Wow, I did a lot in that year too. And then he was looking at his grades and looking at how everything just came together into one big picture. And he just said, Mom, I'm smart. And I went, yes, you are smart. Look how much you've done. You are amazing. And he just all of a sudden illuminated. He goes, Mom, I always thought I was a failure, not going to high school like all my friends did. And he goes, but looking at this, I've accomplished and did more than they ever did. And I said, that's right. You just haven't seen the whole picture before. Yeah. So it's just being able to have them have their ahas. I think that's the biggest answer. To watch my kids come. I mean, my baby's just learning how to read right now, and he comes in, he goes, I know how to spell mom. It's I'm like, that's right. That's right. He discovered it on his own, and he got to share that with me, and we got to have a little celebration just by doing that. Yeah. I think seeing my kids ahas are my favorite, and that's the successes.
Yeah, that's
all worth it.
Yeah, that does make it worth it when you see them, like, oh, the light bulb goes on and you're there to witness that. That's pretty neat. So share with us some personal habits that either make you successful, and then tell us how you organize your time. You're a busy mom of 8, and then you've got a lot of responsibilities outside of your home on top of it. How do you organize everything?
I keep it simple. I mean, if people outside of my house think so, oh my gosh, you accomplish so much, but that's my personality type. If I'm not doing something and creating something and making something big, then I don't feel fulfilled. But other people don't need that, but that's just what I need in my life. So how I organize it is that in our morning time is at 9:00. So they have to finish their chores and breakfast and all that stuff in the morning. But at 9:00, we start school. And at 9:00, we have morning devotional where all of us come together and we memorize a poem and we do some scriptures and we have a little chant and we do some poetry. I mean, just lots of little things. And sing a song. And then it takes about 15 minutes. And after that, then I do together school with the little kids. So all of them from 10 and down. We get together and we do either history or literature or science or something together. And then all of them have their own individual schools. So their math and their writing and their typing or, whatever their goals are that they've made for themselves. And they do that individually. And then I make myself available for my children from 9:00 until 1:00. That's my family time and that's their time. That's the time they can ask questions. But after that, then they know that I'm not there 100% for them. So if I'm on the phone or if I'm doing something else, then they have to wait. And then the afternoon is mine. The afternoon is I get to do my businesses or write my books or make my phone calls or put on the conference or whatever. It's, more my time. So at that time.
And how do you do like some of the household chores? I mean, some people would say, I would just have a horribly messy house all the time. And I'm like, and then I sit and I wonder if they think my house is horribly messy.
Well, first of all, I don't stress about having an immaculate house.
Yeah.
I just don't. I wish I could say that I would wake up every morning and I'd ask the Spirit what to do and I'd be able to do that, but I don't do that either. I'm not there yet. I'm working towards that. But what I do is my kids have their individual chores and they accomplish them every morning. So my house by 9:00 in the morning is beautiful. It's clean. It's vacuumed. The dishes are done. Everything is done by 9:00 before we start school.
And it's pretty cool when, even if they don't do it to maybe the perfection, that I'm really proud of them for being able to accomplish that. And so I think that's great that your kids help with the housework. So,
yeah.
So what are some long-term goals that you have for yourself and your family?
Oh, wow. I mean, if dreams were dreams, right? I would love for all of my family to live close by, to all of them to marry wonderful people, and to have lots and lots of grandchildren that are all homeschooled and I get to teach them.
I've said that to my husband and my husband's like, I don't know if I want you homeschooling everybody else because he wants to go travel and whatever too. So,
right. Well, that's a great thing as a grandma, right? You can go travel and come back and teach Skype, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what is the one thing that you're doing with your family that you're most excited about?
Family traditions, because we do a big something every month together. So in December, we always have a Center Class party, which is a Dutch holiday. And we invite all the friends over and we plan for months ahead of time and how much fun it's going to be and what we're going to do. So it's in those planning of those events as a family that is most exciting to me.
Yeah.
It's really fun. We get to plan the meals and we get to plan the fun. We get to plan games and everybody is having ideas and we're always it's just chatter around the house, like, or we could do this and this and this. Oh no, I didn't like last year how we did this. Let's change it. It just everybody's throwing and ideas are flowing, and that's my favorite.
That's neat. So, what advice or encouragement would you give somebody who's just starting out?
Chill out. Don't stress the small stuff.
Yeah. Don't think they have to read by the time they're 5.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of new homeschoolers are worried about high school transcripts and are they going to graduate from high school? And no, it's, how did God put together our curriculum for us? He gave us a curriculum too. And that was just to love each other and to make those relationships count. It's okay that they're not following the state rules and the state laws and stuff like that, as long as they're following God's laws. And God's laws are simple and they're not stressful. And if we do make mistakes, then he forgives us and we go on to the next thing, Have them make their own goals and this is a big one for me, have fun. Just have fun. If you're not having fun, then you're not going to learn.
Yeah, I like the scripture that talks about his yoke being easy. His burden is easy and his yoke is light. That's so true. I mean, nothing is heavy and, oppressive and whatever. It's very comfortable and loving. So,
unless we put it on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
If we put our own burden heavy. If we think, oh, we have to do this, then it becomes heavy and heavy. But yeah, if we can just let it go, just relax, chill out.
And I think too, when we relax and chill out, we end up with better results than we would if we just push and, just always be forcing it. We end up with so much better results. So do you have a favorite other than your own, I guess, but you could also include those. Do you have a favorite book or resource that you want to share?
Oh my goodness.
You could do yours again.
I have one per subject. Well, my favorite one at the moment is the book called Aspire. It's a book by Kevin Hall, and it's a story form, and he writes all about different words. So like how this word came about and the etymology of the words, and where the histories of it are and how he came across it. And he wrote, basically it's an English book on learning the etymology of words, but he wrote it in a story form. It's very unique and very different. And yeah, it's quite amazing. It's a great book.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Sounds really fun. So how would you like to see the world change in the future?
Oh, I would go back to pioneer days as far as education is concerned. Yeah. It's just being one house schoolrooms and where we get to share each other. I have a talent in teaching symbolism, and I would teach that day and night. But I don't have a talent or a great love for sciences, though I do teach them and I'm great at it, but I don't have a love or a passion for it. So I would love to find other people that have passions in what they want to teach, and let's all teach each other and have fun.
Yeah. I love looking at some of those old pioneer pictures and seeing every house had a schoolhouse. I'm like, yes, I'm like an old pioneer. Yep. So that's awesome. Before we say goodbye, is there any parting words that you want to share with us, or maybe a favorite quote? And then give us your contact information, how we can get a hold of you.
This parting words, love yourself. And the most important thing about homeschooling is that we get to build relationships. In fact, there can be no learning and no respect done if we don't have a great relationship with our children. And that's the foundation, I think, is the relationship and the love that we can build there. And if you can build love within your own family, then they can build love outside. And I think the whole world could be changed because of that. So I say, love each other, love yourself, love your family, love your spouse. That's my mantra.
Well, and I love reading articles that talk about some of the best ways to teach or to show your children love is to love your spouse, and how much they learn from that too, and how important that is in their lives. So, and how can we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me by email at Tresta@KeystoneEd.com. So it's KeystoneEd. So there's 2 E's there. So KeystoneEd.com, and that's an email, or you could go to my website at KeystoneEd.com, and I do 2 things. I have theology tree curriculum that I've written that I do teach, and then I also have a symbolisms where I teach you how to do symbolisms in math. So what's the symbol of 1, what's the symbol of 2, and how they correlate with scripture and how they correlate with your own personal life, and just the geometry of it. It's really quite fun.
It sounds so interesting. I'm going to have to check it out. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience with us. And you just are an amazing person, and I really appreciate you being part of this. So,
well, thank you. Thank you very much. I've really loved it, and I think you're doing a great job. I love being able to put together a whole bunch of homeschoolers and just picking their brains. That's a great idea.
Well, and I've learned so much just from so many moms. It's made me excited to get out and do my job as a mother and a wife and a teacher better. So I appreciate talking with wonderful people like yourself. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Tresta, visit our website, theluminousmind.net. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content by subscribing to iTunes and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you, so please leave a review or a comment. Doing so will help us to continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.